Hello everyone, this is instructor Muriel Howard. This is our week 1 breaking down coding cases video for our BC 3030 course. And today I'm going to go over some information regarding new features for testing, specifically our coding test for the BC 3030 course. Now, before I move on discussing our coding test, I want to remind you guys that there is a regular weekly The Next Step video covering general topics regarding the musculoskeletal system for viewing inside of student materials. So please take advantage of that. There's some helpful information that will definitely help you with this week's TNS, which is the next step test. Okay, so now for the coding test for BC 3030, some of the features are as follows. We no longer offer a sneak peek of the test questions in advance. Some coding tests only offer one attempt, and you are allowed 90 minutes, which is 1 hour and 30 minutes to complete the test. Each question is worth 90 points, and the test consists of 5 coding questions total, some of which are multiple or require multiple answers. So now that we have covered that portion of the information, I want to move on how to prepare. We're going to prepare for these coding tests each week by completing all chapter reading and practice exercises, paying close attention to the rules and guidelines specific to each section and subsection of a particular organ system. This week we are focusing on the musculoskeletal system, which covers Chapter 8 of the next step. You will be given several cases to review and to code. Remember, all odd answers are located in the back of your next step textbook for comparison. Now, odd answers may be every other answer, but you will be given the actual coding along with the rationale to explain the answer and why certain things have to be coded a specific way. Additionally, you want to complete your practice test exercises inside of the weekly materials folder before attempting to take your test. You will need to attend one or more instructor or tutoring lab each week. And here's the tutoring lab calendar link. I will always share this in the course throughout the week, but one place that you can locate this particular link every time you log in to your main landing page inside of Blackboard is your student toolkit. You have your MAA and MOPS calendar, and there's also some Saturday and Sunday coding tutorial each week as well. So pay attention to that. Here's the location of our practice exercises inside of the course, inside of Blackboard. You would initially go into your menu here on the side, and let me get my little pointer. And excuse me, I need my little arrow. Okay, so on the side here you have your links and your menus. Mine is a little bit different because I have course management. You won't see this, but up here you'll have weekly materials, and inside of your weekly materials folder you're going to see the week that we're in. Right now we're in week 1, so that's the only folder you should be able to locate. Inside of week 1, there's a lot of additional helpful information, tools, and resources for you to use to help prepare for both tests and assignments this week. What you want to focus on is your practice exercises. This is interactive, so once you actually take your practice test or complete your exercises, it will be graded and you'll be able to see the correct answer and compare, and that's a good way to prepare for the test. Additionally, there's educational activities, and here is what's inside of the educational activities. If you're not aware, then you should be able to download this particular by clicking this particular link here, and it gives you all of the answers for the questions and coding exercises inside of the next step textbook. So you want to download this each week. But if I were you, I will work my cases, complete all of them, and then compare my answers. And this way, I'll know that I'll be better prepared for the test. And when I sit down to take that test, I may not even need the full 90 minutes, or I may have every particular answer absolutely correct instead of having partial. Some students are well versed in ICD-9, and some are better at CPT. But if you do your practice cases and come here and download and review what you've gotten wrong and study just that particular portion that you've missed, you should do well. Okay, let's code. So what I'm going to do is go over one case for this week's test. So this particular case that I'm covering, which is number one, you will definitely, or you should have this absolutely correct, because this is one case that I'm going to share. I'm going to try to share a solution to 1 to 2 cases each week. I won't promise that I will give you the answer each week, but I will definitely let you know how to find your code. And from there, you will be able to work every other case, so all your other cases, the exact same way. Okay, so before we get into the actual coding, what we want to do is make sure that you understand how to break down your coding case report piece by piece. This tutorial teaches how and what to abstract from various reports, various types of reports that you're going to run into in this particular class. So what I gave you is the index, well, I don't want to say index, but what I gave you are the heading topics here. These are some of the things that you're going to notice when you are reviewing the report. Usually it starts with the location. It will give you the name of the surgeon or the treating surgeon, and that's if this is a surgery case that you're coding. So this is a catch-all way of understanding how to break down and abstract information from your cases. This particular class has all cases just about, and it's an operative report. So that's why I call it a case or an operative report. And you have several headings. Some of these will definitely show up on every single one, and some of them will not. For example, you won't see anything related to radiologists if we're not dealing with a radiology report, or if the radiologist has nothing to do with this procedure on today. Likewise, if there's no surgery, it may just be a diagnostic test or diagnostic procedure. So these are some of the things that you pay attention to when you see this. This is a good thing to highlight who the surgeon was, because you want to make sure that you're coding for the appropriate person. Even though there may be a surgery and there may be a radiologist, there may be the question just telling you to give them the code for the radiologist. And in that case, you would ignore everything related to the surgeon and vice versa. Okay, so the next area you'll find on the report is the procedure or operation. And this is an area that just explains in short form the name of the procedure rendered. This is also known as the main or search term in the CPT index. Remember, CPT is what's done and where, and ICD-9 or indications represent why. So you have this area of the report that may be notated as indications or preoperative or postoperative diagnosis. Now, it may not look just like this. You're going to see them looking separate, okay? And you might see the indications somewhere down here, okay? Doesn't matter where they locate them. It's just depends on the provider and how he likes his reports to look. But a lot of times you're going to see these headings, and this week is especially you're going to see some of these headings. So you're going to see the preoperative diagnosis. This is the problem or the condition that the patient has or is having before diagnosis or before any examination. And then you're going to see the post-operative diagnosis if there is an operation or a diagnostic test being done on that day. And this is the area that we usually locate the actual ICD-9 code that we're going to use for the day. Sometimes the preoperative and postoperative are one and the same, and in some instances, this particular diagnosis will be updated or changed compared consistent with what's going on inside of the actual procedure or diagnostic test that the provider is rendering on today. So he will update this diagnosis. Okay, so this is known as the reason for the surgery and or diagnostic test. This is your diagnostic or ICD-9 code will be found in this area. And more details related to the diagnosis or the actual diagnosis may be located in the indications. So you may have a short form diagnosis here, and you may have more details listed under indications. These three areas, well, let me just say, these two areas alone will give you maybe one or two positive diagnoses for the day. And I'm going to let you know where to find your conclusive diagnosis. Okay, so the procedure. This is a full description and full paragraph of the procedure or services, equipment, utensils, and any other methods that they use to render the actual service. Inside of this paragraph is where the variables to the different types of the exact same procedure codes would be located. And we're going to see an example of that today. So codes such as with contrast material, with fluoroscopy, whether it's the left side, the right side, or the lung biopsy, or whatever they're doing. And here's a hint. After you locate your code or procedure using the main term in the index of the CPT, we will come back through this section right here, or this paragraph, or paragraphs, to determine if any of this information would change the code or include a modifier, such as the right side, the left side, bilateral, reduced services, etc. Now, the area of the report known as the conclusion, and sometimes the other descriptions of this would be known as a summary, findings, or overall impression. So you may not actually run into the word conclusion if the provider or the report that we're viewing did not use it. He may just say summary, he may say findings, or he may say all of this. So where we can find where the provider summarizes additional diagnosis from his findings. And here's the hint. Read this section to locate additional diagnosis codes for the patient if applicable. So a lot of times he'll summarize every single problem or condition in his conclusion or his findings. So we'll utilize the below sections in the same manner as we utilize the conclusion section of the report. So what he has up here is the indications. Why is he doing this particular procedure or service? And as he's doing his procedure or service, he's going to say, I'm noting this. We're noting lesions on this. We're noting the patient having some type of ascites inside of the left abdominal region. He's going to be explaining what is going on as he is completing the procedure in the procedure's summary or the details of the procedure here. So what he does is he concludes that information in his summary or his findings. So this is why we will locate probably the exact same diagnosis for the patient listed in postoperative indications. We'll find that listed in conclusion as well, or we may find additional diagnosis listed in conclusion. So we want to pay attention to postoperative diagnosis, indications, and conclusion. And you're going to see some exact examples of this as the weeks go on. So I know it's a lot to take in right now, and some of you have probably already done this and it's pretty easy for you. But for others, just pay attention to this. And this particular document here will be shared in the course. So don't worry, you're going to find this and you're going to be able to download it and keep it with you so that when you're actually doing your coding, you'll know exactly what to look for. Now we can begin to code case number 1 for our coding test for this week. Okay, so I have here question number 1, and what a new feature for our test this week, or this particular course or this term, is the steps for coding. This information will be located inside of your test and on top of each test question. So it's just a reminder and giving you step-by-step instructions on what you need to do, and I'm highlighting everything, to code for your ICD-9 and to code for your CPT. And we're going to follow this example today as we complete this case. Okay, once again, we have our operative report, and if you've um, have not had an opportunity to take the test just yet for week 1 coding, this is exactly how the case looks. Looks a little weird on my computer because I have pasted it to a Word document. And since you guys have 90 minutes to complete the test, I suggest having your screen open and copying the question over to a Word document and take your time to highlight and work your case the same way I'm doing it right now. Okay, so this is an operative report. So what's missing is the radiologist, because we're not using a radiologist. We're just coding for the surgeon. So all of those other headings that I showed you or told you have been omitted, and that's okay because this is distinct to what's going on with this one patient. Once again, we have a preoperative diagnosis and postoperative diagnosis, and they are one and the same. So the only thing I highlighted was the postoperative diagnosis because this is where I'm pulling my information from for my ICD-9. I'm going to start with abstracting information for my ICD-9 code first, and then I'll move on to CPT. Okay, so we have comminuted, which is classified, and I added this information in here, classified as a closed fracture. So the patient has a comminuted left proximal humerus fracture. Now, the first thing you need to do first and foremost is understand what happened to the patient and where. We see that the patient has a fracture. The type is comminuted or closed, and you're not going to locate comminuted in the ICD-9 manual. So that's why I reclassified this information as closed. And let me highlight and bold this. Okay. And we know the fracture is a break. And the humerus. This is the upper arm, the bone that is connected to your elbow and your ulna and your radius. So this is the top portion of your arm bone. And where, this is the left arm and the proximal area. Proximal means the area that is closest to the body. So it's something that is proximal, it's closer to the inner portion of the body. Something that is distal, it's on the outer side, which is furthest away from the inner portion of the body. So we have a closed fracture of the humerus at the top or upper end, and we're going to find out why I said upper end shortly. Okay, so now we are dealing with our diagnosis. We've covered this, and now I want to move down to indications. All right, indications, I'm going to read some more information. Sometimes you see the age of the patient in here, and in some procedures it does matter how old the patient is, so that's why it's important to pay attention to the age. And then we see more details related to the actual procedure. So a patient is 66-year-old female who sustained a severely comminuted proximal humerus fracture, and it's the same diagnosis. It says the risk and benefit of surgical procedure were discussed. She stated understanding and desire to proceed. Okay. Now, if there's any additional things in here that we can use to tell us about a modifier, then we can add that as well. But there's nothing here that's going to tell us that we're going to need a modifier. And you're going to see some other cases that may have some additional information in here, such as patient return to the operating room after a previous surgery and things like that. Okay, so now I want to look down at the bottom to see if I have conclusion, no. Okay, summary, no. And so pretty much he's just basically saying that the patient was taken to the recovery room and no immediate complications. If there were any additional diagnoses or complications, he would list them here. So now let's deal with our diagnosis. And what I did here is I pretty much added, go down to the diagnosis portion. I pretty much added how to locate my diagnosis in each step by step. One, in the ICD-9 manual, volume 2, I went to the word fracture. Okay, so let me highlight this as I go along. And then I went to the word humerus. I don't know why I spelled it this way. Humerus. I think the computer thought it was, I think the computer is thinking of a different term. Anyway, when I got to the word humerus, I was told or decided to go find the part or portion of the humerus because the humerus has different portions, different sides to it. And if you are not 100% familiar with what the humerus looks like, you would probably need to go to, and there's a few ways to tell. Go into your ICD-9 manual, and I am using this particular, for this particular example, I'm using a 2015. So I am on page 952 in the 2015, and here is the anatomy of the musculoskeletal system. From the skull all the way down to the metatarsals. It has each individual bone or body area broken down, and it explains what portions, it describes which portions are distinct to each part of the musculoskeletal system. So you would may want to look at some of these figures so that you can get an idea. And additionally, inside of your weekly or student materials folder for week 1, there is a musculoskeletal diagram with a link for more details regarding the musculoskeletal system. So if you want to actually take a look at it, because it's hard to code for something if you're not 100% sure what it looks like and how it functions. Okay, so moving on, went to humerus, went to proximal end, and it told me to see upper end or see humerus upper end. So I'm under humerus already. I'm under fracture, and under fracture alphabetically, I went to the word humerus. I'm still underneath humerus when I move down a little bit to the area that says upper end, and is also known as proximal end. So it is the upper bone portion of the humerus, the part of the bone that connects into our scapula, the part that rotates. Okay, and we're going to look at that as well. So it gave me a code for reference 812.00, and you're always supposed to cross reference this. So what I did was cross reference, to volume 1. And when I got there, pretty much I have my 3-digit category with a big bold red dot. That's where I began. And then there was a little drop off that gave me this point 0. And then I still have a little dot telling me that I need a 4th digit. And this is just for the fracture of the humerus. This is for the fracture of the humerus upper end. I think this is for the fracture of the humerus upper end, and I'm not actually looking at it. And so for me to get my secondary zero or my fifth digit, I looked down a little, one number underneath, and then it had my full description. It's like I think it was unspecified site, which is what the fifth digit or fifth zero represented. So it's at the upper end of the humerus, and it doesn't actually give me the name of the portion of the humerus that was affected. So so looking at my page 952, I see a figure 17-6 of the humerus, and it says head, it says anatomical neck, greater tubal, lesser tubal, intertubular sulcus, and surgical neck. None of those areas were mentioned, so it was okay for me to add a zero for unspecified site or unspecified area, and I'm paraphrasing because it was not listed. So I have my appropriate code right here. And that's pretty simple. Even though we have all of this writing, and I say this in all of my coding videos, all of this stuff to review, it was really pretty simple to get our code once you know where to look. Okay, now let's focus on the CPT procedure portion. I have some stuff pre-highlighted, but I'm going to re-highlight this. So it tells us the operative procedure. The procedure that is being done today is this. And I'm going to give this a really cute, funky color. I think I want everything to be purple in this sentence. And I want my highlighting more than likely to be something that's going to show yellow. So it tells me open treatment of left proximal humerus. Now, one thing you may not locate in a CPT index is open treatment, but we can go by what happened to the patient, which is a fracture. So we can locate our procedure under the word fracture in the CPT index in the back. So we go to the word fracture, and then from there we have to locate the body part, which is humerus. And then the type of treatment is open treatment. And I'm locating all of this information right under operative procedure. I have not once went down into the description or anything else because I need to first locate my, I want to say reference code or referential information. So now I have this additional note right here that says implants, and that's important and is highlighted, but it's not going to matter at this point. So let me move down here, and I'm going to go over the steps for my CPT. Number 1, fracture. Number 2, humerus. Number 3, open treatment. And all of these words are located under the category of fracture. Fracture, then the body part, and then the type of treatment done to that body part by way of fracture. Okay, so now I'm given this code range, and there's only two codes, 23615 to 23616. I have my code range, and I need to figure out, is it this one or this one? Even if it's a code range of 5, I still need to go over and cross-reference to determine if it's this one or this one. Okay, so what I did is I went into my musculoskeletal section in the surgery section of the CPT under the tools, not tool. And then it gave me 23615, and I'm going to read that description. I thought I had my book open, but I guess I don't. 23615. And I am also using a 2015 for this particular example as well. I don't usually call off page numbers or the year of my book because some of you may still be using a 2014 and some of you may have jumped ahead and started using a 2016. But for this particular case, I'm under 23615, and the full description of the standalone code is open treatment of proximal humeral or surgical or anatomical neck fracture. It includes internal fixation when performed. Includes repair of tuberosity when performed. So we know right there that regardless of what the provider did, like this, tuberosities, I'm looking at it in here, I don't even have to pay attention to any of that information because it's all inclusive. So if I wanted to find out if I needed one code over the other, I it doesn't matter if he did it or didn't. It's all inclusive. Okay, so now which one is it? Is it 23615 or 23616? 23616 tells me that the provider would have to use proximal humeral prosthetic treatment or prosthetic replacement. How do I know if he did that or not? Another word for prosthesis or prosthetics is implant. So I highlighted the word Dupuy Global Fracture Stem size 10 with 48 by 15 humeral head. How in the world do we suppose to know what this is? It just says implant here. This one right here says I need to use prosthesis. So why is it one code over the other? So here's a quick way to determine that. And I also highlighted it in the case because this is just basically saying that he used implant and what he did to install the implant. But one of the ways to find out what something or this particular item is or what it looks like or what the description is just Google it. So I copied this information just for your sakes so that you can kind of get an idea of how you're going to work your cases, and I pasted it into my Google browser. Okay, so once my browser gave me a lot of options, of course, there's lots of options, I chose this one, the Dupuy Synthes, because this is exactly what the provider used. And this is basically telling me what this is. This is the shoulder ball or the ball and socket of the shoulder. As you can see, it's a prosthetic device. It is implantable because they have to add this, and this particular catalog explains how the procedure is done. So this is, key surgical steps. So if you want to have more and more knowledge and insight on your services that you're coding for and what it looks like and walk away with a really good experience, it's good to always do your research. So that's why I say copy your case to, let me open my other window back. Copy your case to a Word document so that you can, highlight certain things. You can even, for this word, if you didn't know what common nudit was, and you should because, it's in the chapter and you have to definitely read the chapter, but you can right click and you can do lookup. And Microsoft Word has a great feature right here that allows you to search some terms and some words right here on your computer in Microsoft Word and gives you the definition. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to give me a call or text me. So number one is a freebie. You should have every answer correct. Let me highlight the correct answer here. And I'm actually going to make it red. And you should complete all of your cases in the same manner as this one. You guys have plenty of time, but you have to do your legwork and you have to do your research and your practice first. Practice makes perfect. Thank you for viewing. Have a great week. Bye bye.